Hello everybody, welcome to Calls. This is the 2023 Scottish Open DFS Tactics show. That's right, we are here for all of your last minute questions, the final weather forecast, updated ownership projections, who are the best pivots, the correct fades, all of that stuff. We have about 3 hours until lineups lock. So we're going to have a lot of information to cover, so let's not waste any time. All statistics provided tonight and every night are from fantasynational.com. It is the best tool out there for your money. It's going to make you a much smarter golf gambler and a much better golf DFS player. Go check them out. It is simply well worth your investment. In the description to the video, there are links to all of the social media. First off, my Twitter and Instagram, where I posted some research yesterday around the Barbasol Championship. No research around the Scottish Open, as there's only 1 year of data in Fantasy National for the Scottish Open, but I did post a lot concerning the Barbasol. So if you would like to see my weekly research for the PGA Tour, then give me a follow at your preferred social media site, Twitter or Instagram. Twitter is also where I post my betting cards, and that'll be no different. I will have both my Barbasol and Scottish Open wagers out on Twitter after the show tonight. So if you would like to see my weekly wagers, then give me a follow over at Twitter. And then Gabe's Twitter is also in the description. He writes a very good article called The Fringe. I highly suggest you give him a follow and subscribe to that article. It's a great way to start your week in terms of research. And with this being Wednesday evening, I will be over in his Substack chat. We are going to continue the DFS discussion as we always do Wednesday evenings. So a great way to continue the DFS talk. So if you are not a subscriber to his article, I highly suggest you do so. And then finally, for this intro, we are live. Chat is open. I want to hear from you all. What wagers have you made for the Scottish Open? What plays are you thinking of making? Who are you deciding between? Who are you pivoting to, fading away from? All that good stuff. So let's figure out our strategies and our tactics for the 2023 Scottish Open. And we're going to start, as we always do, on a Wednesday evening over at Windfinder. This is the most up-to-date forecast that we will have live. Now, the final update before the tournament starts will come around 11:30 Eastern. And if you have that luxury, I would highly suggest that you do so, just to make sure the forecast doesn't change dramatically between now and then. But for what we have at our disposal, looks like tomorrow is going to be pretty even in terms of which side of the draw gets the wind. Looks like the very beginning of the morning and the very end of the afternoon waves are going to get the worst part of the wind tomorrow. No rain in the forecast for tomorrow, but apparently there's been a little bit of rain today. And then moving into into Friday, it looks like there's a little bit of rain that's supposed to come in overnight Thursday, and pretty low winds Friday morning, even for the beginning portion of the afternoon wave. But then it looks like the winds really pick up in the afternoon on Friday. So again, if you have the luxury, I would highly suggest that you stay up until 11:30, which is supposed to be when the next update is here at Windfinder, 11:30 Eastern. If you do not have that luxury, based on what I'm seeing, I have an advantage for the Friday morning wave. How much? I think it's a decent advantage. I wouldn't eliminate any of the players that are playing Thursday afternoon just because of this forecast. And of course, the weather over in North Berwick and Scotland and the United Kingdom in general can change pretty rapidly. So I don't want to put too much emphasis into it, but given the forecast that is in front of us as of this moment, I would give a decent advantage to the Friday morning wave. So, especially for your tiebreakers, if you have, if you're considering 2 or 3 players, really lean towards the players that are playing on Friday morning and Thursday afternoon. But there is the updated forecast for North Berwick for the Scottish Open. We're going to move to Fantasy National, and thanks to that forecast that we just saw, you see I have the moderate and windy filters selected. In the past 18 months, our top performers in the field, our top total performers in the field at the Scottish Open this week: Justin Thomas, Sung Jae, Scotty Scheffler, Matt Fitzpatrick, Xander, Rory, Shane Lowry, Max Homa, Sam Burns, and Jordan Spieth. Scroll on down a little bit here to about the top 30 or so for you. Continuing on beyond Jordan Spieth, Tom Hoagie, Billy Horschel, Sahith Theegala, Brian Harmon, Corey Connors. There's your top 15 in terms of total performance in moderate and windy conditions. The other end of the spectrum, players who have not played well in the wind in the past 18 months: Dylan Wu, Jimmy Walker, Garrick Higgo, Robbie Shelton, Ricky, although he has played much better in 2023, Matt Wallace, Troy Merritt, Charlie Hoffman, and so on down. Really only highlighting the players that have enough rounds to make it at least somewhat statistically significant. Of course, there are other players, MJ Duffy, Nikolai Højgaard, Robert McIntyre. They've played on the PGA Tour, but they haven't even played double-digit rounds in windy conditions. So I don't want to put a whole lot of emphasis into it, but there are the players that, for the rounds they have played, have not played well in the wind. But with the forecast as it is at the moment, I spent all week mentioning that if the winds are going to pick up, I think it's going to play similarly than it did last year, with a winning score of -7, like Xander had. I do not see this being a -18, a -21, which they have seen a couple times at the Renaissance Club. So with that, last little bit of overview, if you will. Our top total performers when a round has been difficult in the past 18 months: Scotty Scheffler, Rory, Xander, Patrick Cantlay, Matt Fitzpatrick, let's try that again. I forgot to sort it. Our top total performers when a round is difficult: Scotty Scheffler, Rory, Matt Fitzpatrick, Victor Hovland, Wyndham Clark, Shane Lowry, Xander, Max Homa, Tommy Fleetwood, and Patrick Cantlay. So a lot of overlap here between the wind and the difficult. Of course, difficult, these are your major champions and players who are generally a big factor in majority of majors: Scheffler, Matt Fitzpatrick, Wyndham Clark, Shane Lowry, Xander. So a lot of overlap between the difficult and the windy. Scrolling on down again to about the top 30 here. Continuing on, Sam Burns, Sung Jae, Jordan Spieth, Tyrrell Hatton, Justin Rose is your top 15 in terms of performance when it's difficult. Other end of the spectrum, players who have not played well when it's difficult: Eric Van Rooyen, Nikolai Højgaard, Garrick Higgo, Jimmy Walker, Scott Stallings, Francesco Molinari, Robert McIntyre, Lucas Herbert, Robbie Shelton, Callum Tarrant, and so on down. Again, really kind of highlighting the players that have enough rounds to make it statistically significant. All right, so with that, let's go ahead and jump straight into the mixed condition model that I've made for the Scottish Open this week. And from Monday's show, there's a lot to improve upon. More than half of my top 20 missed the cut last year. I was just completely wrong about it. So we're going to see if this is an improvement from last year. We're starting off the mixed condition model, 15% in strokes gained approach. I'm a biased analyst. I just think strokes gained approach is the most important shot type in golf. I think it's going to play pretty important this week, especially with the wind. But because of the wind, I do think around the green is going to have a significant factor. These greens, while they are large, they can be difficult to hit, especially if players aren't in the fairway. Players are going to have to be able to get up and down, scramble, all that stuff. I did not use any filter for around the green. I thought about strokes gained around the green in long rough, perhaps difficult to par, but with this being links style golf or close to it, a lot of times the players will be using putter around the green or off the green, chipping off tight lies and whatnot. So it's not a guarantee that they will be in long rough. Unlike the American style game, where if you are not on the green, generally speaking, you're in the rough or in the bunker, there's a lot of runoff, there's a lot of fairway cut in the European style and in the English style of game. So did not put any filter onto the around the green, just 10% flat out around the green. Again, speaking to how I think the tournament's going to play difficult, 15% in bogeys avoided when it's difficult to par. This is one of the biggest factors, or was one of the biggest factors in last year's Scottish Open. Just a massive amount of importance for players to avoid bogeys last year, as pars were great scores, and I think pars are going to be pretty good scores again this week. 15% in good drives gained, and again, there were a couple of different filters I thought about using. Perhaps good drives gained in the wind, good drives gained in long rough, but I settled with good drives gained difficult just as a general filter, as I do think the tournament's going to play difficult. So that leads you to perhaps the first potential flaw in the mixed condition model. That is, the tournament doesn't play difficult. I'm going to be pretty weak considering I used the difficult to par filter on 30% of the mixed condition model. But good drives gained, a good drive gained defined by Fantasy National is a player has hit the fairway or they are able to hit the green in regulation from the rough. That is going to be a pretty big factor. It generally is in link style golf. If you're in the fairway, you can generally control your flight, control the spin and whatnot. But if you're in the rough, I want to see players who are able to at least hit the greens. 10% in par threes. There are 5 par threes here at the Renaissance Club. And while they didn't play a huge factor last year, especially for Xander, the winner, I do think they are going to have increased importance. We are only working off 1 year of data, so I think in the long term, having 5 par threes on the course, I think lends itself to mandating that those are going to be pretty darn important. 10% in par fours, and I did split out the 450 to 500 par fours, only 5% in those. There are a few par fours throughout this course. There is a semi-drivable par four, so I didn't want to put all of the weight into the specific length of par fours, 450 to 500, even though it is the most important. Par fives, they are the best scoring opportunities at the Renaissance Club. There are still 3 of them, so that's why they are carrying 10%, not 5%. You still have 3 par fives, and they are the best scoring opportunities that you will have. So to play very well or to rise on the leaderboard, I envision you have to play the par fives very well. Xander really took advantage of the par fives last year. And then lastly, I talked about this at the very end of the show Monday evening. 3-putt avoidance, and I used the filter Velcro. Now, there aren't a lot of Velcro green speeds stateside, and those tournaments that are the Valero, the Tournament of Champions, a little bit of Pebble Beach, we don't even get a lot of the strokes gained putting detail from it. Places like Puerto Rico and the Corrales, Mayakoba, those places don't have shot link. So this is a bit of a stretch, but I do feel three-putt avoidance is going to be a big factor. It generally is in link-style golf with these big greens. And the one thing that we do know about the greens here at the Renaissance Club, and generally speaking over in the United Kingdom, is that they are slow. They have to keep them slow. That way the ball can stay at rest with generally the high winds that are there, not unlike the Caribbean. So 10% in three-putt avoidance on slow greens, and I had to go all the way back to 2019 just to get enough rounds to be statistically significant. So there's a look at the mixed condition model. I do not have anything off the tee. I do not see that playing a big factor. So if it does, that's another facet that I could be a little bit weak to. I don't have anything specific around scrambling. I did that mainly with the thought process of bogey avoidance and around the green. I'm looking at good drives gained. If distance happens to be the factor, okay. But hopefully the metrics, the filters, and the reasoning behind them is clear, and why and how I am set up to try to attack the Scottish Open, and perhaps what flaws there could be if the tournament plays differently than what I'm seeing. So there's a look at the mixed condition model. Let's go ahead and move on over to Microsoft Excel and the reveal of my rankings. And before we get too far into it, these rankings do not factor in the tee times. I mentioned that based on the forecast that I see, I would give an advantage. I don't know how significant, but I would give an advantage to the Thursday PM, Friday AM half of the draw. I do not factor that into my rankings at all. I do that kind of off the stream or whatnot. My rankings are based around three factors, this week two, but the FNGC rank is a ranking purely by the numbers from Fantasy National based on the mixed condition model. I do factor in percent owned as a portion of my rankings. We are trying to find unique plays. The third third facet of my rankings is course value. Having said that, I did not do that for the Scottish Open. We only have 1 year of data, full data. Now I could have went back and done a little bit around 2021, 2019 for the Renaissance Club, but I just wanted to keep it at the FNGC rank and ownership, and I'll start factoring in course value and rating those guys based on how they've played at the Renaissance Club starting next year. So there's a quick explanation of how I do my rankings. My top 10 for the Scottish Open this week: my number one player, the defending champion, Xander Schauffele. Scotty Scheffler, number 2. Rory, Patrick Cantlay, and Sung Jae round out my top 5. And you can see Sung Jae is really rising thanks to his perceived uniqueness, according to Fantasy National. To round out the top 10, Wyndham Clark, Justin Rose, Tommy Fleetwood, Shane Lowry, and Max Homa. I don't have much of an issue with the players here. You can always argue the ordering. To me, I might have thought Matt Fitzpatrick would have risen a little bit, considering he is very, very good in these link style tournaments and courses. Number 2 bogey avoider, but getting a little bit of love as well. Otherwise, look, Sung Jae's really rising thanks to the uniqueness, and I thought he might rise or get into the top 10. I don't know if I would put him at 5th, but he's still a bogey avoider. He's still a grinder, much like Terrell Hatton and Matt Fitzpatrick. These players, he's a bogey avoider. Now his irons haven't been as good this year. He's kind of struggled at the par 3s, but everything else, I mean, he's still 8th analytically by Fantasy National for the model that I've put together. So I do think Sung Jae is going to be a pretty good play this week. But enough of that. Let's go on to sorting the price board and figuring out where we can gain some leverage, where the chalk is, and how we can maneuver around it. So we're going to sort on the salary. And we have 4 players in the 5 digits or in the 10Ks. We have Scotty Scheffler at 11.6, Rory at 10.9, Xander at 10.4, Patrick Cantlay at 10.2. And you see, all 4 of these guys are 1, 2, 3, and 4 in my rankings. I am not going to be getting away from the 10Ks. Scheffler is the number 1 projected owned player in the 10Ks. He is number 2 overall, I believe, behind Terrell Hatton, who we'll talk about in the 9Ks. Look, Scheffler's been amazing this year, even with the putter not cooperating. Number 1 in irons, number 1 in around the green, which is just off your screen. Number 1 in par 4s. Number 1 in bogey avoidance. There's a lot to like here with Scotty Scheffler, but you're going to be paying a hefty price and decent bit of ownership. I have to believe Xander is going to be more popular than 12.5%. If he is not, Xander will be the clear number 1 in my 10Ks. Defending champion. The around the green has been, I can't say suspect. It's been okay. But number 5 in good drives gained. He generally hits plenty of greens and hits enough fairways. Number 5 in bogey avoidance. Number 2 in irons. Only behind Scotty Scheffler. Number 4 in par 4s. Xander's been playing pretty darn well in 2023, even though he doesn't have the win. So I really like Xander. I've been down on Cantlay lately. I think 14% is fair. I would much rather go to Rory, considering they are comparable in ownerships, at least per Fantasy National. I think I would be much more confident in Rory than Patrick Cantlay. So, based on what I'm seeing, I would go Xander number 1 if he is indeed this unique. Scotty Scheffler 2nd, Rory 3rd, and Patrick Cantlay 4th in the 10Ks. And it's not like I'm down on Cantlay. I'm just kind of lukewarm on him. Look, the par 3s have not been good, and I think they're going to play a decent size factor. But he's still 4th, even with the analytics. He is the best on par 5s this calendar year. He's been the best at par 5s. So you have to score on the par 5s here. So I think he's going to be okay. 14% is fair. I'm not in love with it, but I don't hate it either. So I'll go Xander number 1, especially if he is this unique. If he's creeping up closer to the 15% that Rory is, or even higher, I would probably make Scotty Scheffler number 1 in that case. But based on what we have, I'll go Xander number 1, Scheffler 2nd, Rory 3rd, and Patrick Cantlay 4th. Moving to the 9s, Fitzpatrick, Hovland, Hatton, Ricky Fowler, Tommy Fleetwood, Jordan Spieth, Shane Lowry, and Wyndham Clark. Again, another stacked part of the price board where nobody is outside 17th, and that's Jordan Spieth, who has played link-style golf exceptionally well. By no means am I going to be low on Jordan Spieth. Top 20 in irons, top 25 in bogey avoidance. Hasn't been the best with good drives gained, but we all know his prowess with the short game, and he's the number 2 3-putt avoider. He really, really putts slow greens well. Makes a lot of sense being a Texas native and all the wind there. So I like Spieth. If there's a player in here that I'm actually a little bit concerned about, it might be Ricky. Even though as well as he has played in 2023, the good drives gained is not fantastic by any means, and he can run into some bogeys pretty quickly. Now, 35th is not a terrible statistic, but I do have a bit of concern with Ricky, especially at 16.5%. He's going to be pretty darn chalky. I don't know why Fitzpatrick's only at 13.5%. I get it. The irons have not been good this calendar year, but I talked about him in the top 10 and how I was surprised he wasn't in the top 10. Number 2 in bogey avoidance. The around the green game is still very, very good. Top 20 in both par 4s and par 5s. I don't see any reason why Fitzpatrick won't play well. Same with Shane Lowry. Lowry at 12%, he's getting a little bit more love than he has in the past, but still not enough, I don't think. 4th in bogey avoidance. Number 1 in good drives gained when it's difficult. His Open Championship win in similar style conditions. So I like Shane Lowry quite a bit. Wyndham Clark, that's a lot of ownership. Tommy Fleetwood was always going to be pretty popular, especially in this style of event. Evening P, thanks for jumping in chat. Good to see you 2 nights in a row. Last night for the Barbasol and now for the Scottish. Hopefully you are ready, have gotten your lineups in, or are prepared to put them in fairly quickly after the show, since we will have about 3 hours after it. But thanks for jumping in chat. Much appreciated. Victor Hovland, look, the around the green game has gotten a lot better. But it might be an issue. It might be an issue for Victor this week. So in the 9Ks, I would be cautious on Victor Hovland because of the around the green, and for as few rounds as he has, and it's a smaller sample size, but he has not putt slow greens well. Opposite of Jordan Spieth, who's always putt them well, Victor hadn't. So I'd be a little bit cautious on Victor. I'd be a little bit cautious on Ricky Fowler. I am worried about the bogey avoidance to a small degree, even though he is playing a lot better this year. I do like Lowry. I generally do when it's difficult. I think Spieth is fine. If Spieth is indeed 13.5%, I'm going to be using a lot of Spieth. Fitzpatrick should be pretty good. Terrell Hatton is the most projected owned player, so you're setting yourself up for a 5v5 right off the bat if you're using him. It's probably a good play, but it's a lot of ownership. And Wyndham Clark, I think, is fine, but I do not like the ownership here at 16%. Looks like a lot of balanced builds are happening with our fellow contestants. If they're not going to Scheffler, then they're doing some combination of Hatton and Ricky, or Hatton and Fleetwood, Hatton and Clark, something to that effect going on with our fellow contestants. But there's a look at the 9Ks. Going to be cautious on Hovland, cautious on Ricky, pretty cautious on Wyndham Clark as well. I have to imagine Spieth's going to be a little bit more popular than 13.5%. If he's not, then I would be very, very happy come tomorrow. Moving into the 8s. I'm not going to go through every single player. Let's talk about Ludvig Åberg. He is Swedish, but he has been pretty accustomed to the American-style game. Look, the irons haven't been his best. He is a good ball striker, but he hasn't been the best. And look at these metrics when it's been difficult. Again, very, very small sample size, but he has really played well on easy courses. So I am anxious to see how he's going to do if the conditions really get tough, as he has really struggled when they've been tough. He is number 5 in par 5s, so he's got enough going for him. But I think Åberg's going to be a fade for me. I'm willing to take the chance that the small sample size of him playing poorly when it's difficult and gaining a little bit of uniqueness on fellow contestants in that regard. Justin Rose was always going to be pretty popular. Makes a lot of sense. He doesn't have a bad statistic. 34th is his worst. Like 32nd here is his second to worst statistic. He's going to be really popular. This is chalk that I probably won't be able to get away from in the 8Ks. Minwoo Lee never rates out well for me, but he is a former champion of the Scottish Open, I believe. He's at least won on the DP World Tour in similar style conditions. Look, it's about his irons. He's a very good off-the-tee player, but I don't have off-the-tee factored in. So take that what you will. Minwoo Lee's a bit of an enigma for me. Max Homa looks like he should play well, but he has struggled the past couple times I've backed him. So a little bit gun shy with that, but 10.5 ownership on Max Homa someone who I believe top 20'd this event last year. That's pretty good value on that, especially in the 8Ks. Considering his irons are still top 10 in this loaded field, he can avoid bogeys. Number 2 in par 3s, and again, there are 5 of them here at the Renaissance Club, so I like Max Homa. Sung Jae is a great play on the uniqueness alone, especially with the propensity to avoid bogeys. The irons will eventually be, come back to what we expect from Sung Jae. I have to believe that. I'm off of Sam Burns. I think he gets too wayward for this style of golf. He is the number 1 player in par 3s, however. We talked about Ludwig Aberg. Justin Thomas had a fantastic Travelers, or Rocket Mortgage maybe, and then comes back and misses the cut at the next tournament he plays. I don't know where Thomas's game is. He's fairly unique for a player of his caliber, but until he shows signs of life continuously, and this is what I said about Ricky, this is what I said about Harris English coming off his injury, and Webb Simpson, until he shows continuous signs of life, I think I'm going to have to avoid Justin Thomas. Adam Scott, okay. The par 3s have been really bad. The irons are not this bad, but he's not going to be unique by any means. Connor's getting a little bit of attention. He's all about hitting fairways, irons, but his putting and short game is really, really bad. So I would be a little bit cautious on Connors. You see the around the green, 3-putt avoidance, not great. He's always been a ball striker and not a short game player. And link style golf can lend itself to short game, especially when the winds pick up. So there's a look at the 8Ks. I know I didn't hit everybody, but I'll be using some Max Homa. 10.5% on a player of his caliber is great, especially since he showed that he can play this style of golf, top 20 in this event last year. Sung Jae is a very unique play. I have to think he will get better and put something together here fairly soon. I'll be happy when he does, because I'll be backing him. A little bit, I'm going to be fading Aberg around the difficult narrative. Adam Scott, the irons aren't this bad, but the ownership, I'm not in love with. It's fair. You'd have to expect it that he is going to have some ownership. Don't want any part of Burns, and Minwoo Lee is just always an enigma for me. Moving into the upper 7s, a couple players that we really want to highlight. Alex Smalley had a very good Scottish Open last year. You see, in this loaded field, in a big event, he is number 5 in irons this calendar year. He has been playing some exceptionally good golf. Number 7 in good drives gained, top 20 in bogey avoidance. His issue has been the around the green specifically, which could be an issue here, and par 5s. It didn't come back to hurt him last year. He's getting more love than I thought he would. I do like Alex Smalley, but if he's creeping up into the 12, 13%, I would be much more cautious about it. Aaron Rai has won at the Renaissance Club. Englishman. He doesn't avoid bogeys the best, but I think he's going to play pretty well this week. I just don't like that ownership. Something I really kind of want to gravitate you towards is Lucas Herbert. And yes, he is really, really poor in my rankings. Almost last. But the reason why I want to highlight Lucas Herbert for you all, his win at the Bermuda Championship, although that is an easier course, that Sunday when he won, those conditions were horrendous. 30-mile-an-hour winds, rainy, just awful. And he said after that round that he loves those conditions. So I would not be surprised if he performs well at a miserable weathered event. So don't take your eye off Lucas Herbert. Let's see. A lot of these players, Gary Woodland. He's got such a low ball flight. You would think he should play well, keeping the ball out of the wind. I'm not in love with it. I do like Ryan Fox down here at 75. Good drives gained. Okay. He's either not hitting the fairway or not hitting the green if he's in the rough. But he's a grinder. He putts pretty well. The par fours are very good, as you can see here, 25th. I don't mind Ryan Fox. I don't like the ownership. I was hoping he'd be a little bit more unique, but I do like Ryan Fox. Moving into the low sevens. Let's look at a few names here. Christian Bezadenhout, for as much as we've talked about around the green, he's generally an around the green and short game player. His around the green hasn't been good this calendar year, but he is pretty darn good with around the green. So I'm thinking as he gets back to more of his roots, DP World Tour style game, because he's been over stateside for quite a bit now. I think once he gets back to his roots, the around the green game will come back. The very good putter. He just has to be a lot better at these par fives, as you see there. But he's top 10 par threes. Good bogey avoider. I like Bezadenhout this week. I always mention it. The more difficult it gets, the more you need to think about Keith Mitchell. The irons have been atrocious. There's no doubt about that. But he just loves difficult tournaments. Even though the bogey avoidance here isn't all that great, his win at the Honda, a very difficult tournament, really highlighted that. And he is very, very adept at lag putting and 3-putt avoidance. So the more difficult it gets, the more you need to consider Keith Mitchell. I was pretty off of Nick Taylor last week, and it turned out to be a very good suggestion. This week I might jump back on Nick Taylor. A lot of it with the putter. He's very good at par fours as well. He's top 12 in par fours. He's decent at the par fives as well. So I think I might get back onto the Nick Taylor bandwagon for the Scottish this week. Yannick Paul is somebody else that I would like to mention to you all. Played very well in his 2 tournaments when he came over stateside last year in the Barbasol and Barracuda. I do not know what he's done at the DP World Tour, but he's a talented player. I don't know how I feel about JT Poston. He's a very good putter, and he, 3-putt avoidance is very solid, but man, not a lot else works for him. So it's really what I have for you in the low 8s. Keith Mitchell, really, really thinking about Christian Bezadenhout. Let's see. Eric Cole rated out very, very well for me. I don't know. Good drives gained. He's all or nothing. He's got elite statistics. 14th in approach, 15th in bogey avoidance. He is either elite or really bad. So he's obviously got more elite than bad, considering where he is analytically and in the final rankings. But I don't know. I don't know how I feel about Eric Cole. Just kind of lukewarm. Kitayama finished second in this last year, but he has not played particularly well this year outside of his win at the Arnold Palmer. So there's a look at the low 7s. And moving into the 6s, I do have a couple of names for you that I am going to be using, and I want to bring to your attention. Look, anything around putting, you still have to think about Taylor Montgomery, but I backed him quite a bit at the John Deere, and it backfired heavily. He did not play well, and it's difficult because he's played easy courses well, and it's difficult. So this is a real shot in the dark. But if you're really, really leaning into the short game, around the green he's been good. Putting, he's really, really good. So if you're really leaning into the short game, think about Taylor Montgomery. Right above him, Mackenzie Hughes as well. Short game thinking, if you will. Let's see. But the one player that I really wanted to highlight for you all at 6,300, or maybe 64, Sammy Valimaki. And we don't have a lot of statistics on him. He hasn't been over stateside much at all. But what we do have, when it's been difficult, he's been very, very good. Hitting greens, hitting fairways, avoiding bogeys. It's not a lot of data, but the data we have has been very, very solid for Sammy Valimaki. I do have a top 20 wager on him at some pretty high odds. So Sammy Valimaki is the kind of unique play that I have been gravitating towards, especially in my stars and scrubs type builds. But there's a look at the price board. Let's move on to making some lineups. We're going to start with tiers, but get your questions ready. Put those in chat, and I will get to them as we work on creating some lineups to end off the show. So for those who play tiers contests, Tier 1, we have Scotty Scheffler, Rory, and Xander. Kind of like what I said in Classic and talking through the price board, if Xander is indeed this unique compared to Scotty Scheffler and Rory in tiers, the choice is Xander. The closer he gets to Scotty Scheffler in ownership, the more I would take Scotty Scheffler. But for this exercise, I'm going to take Xander, hoping that he is at least a bit unique. Tier 2, Patrick Cantlay, Matt Fitzpatrick, Victor Hovland, Tyrrell Hatton, and Tommy Fleetwood. Ooh, good choices here. Tommy Fleetwood's going to be popular. Tyrrell Hatton's the most projected on player. Fitzpatrick's burned me a few times, but he should play well, and he's played the Renaissance Club very, very well as well. To me, I think it's between Fitzpatrick and Fleetwood trying to get the same amount of upside as Tyrrell Hatton with getting a little bit of uniqueness. I'll go Fleetwood, but Fitzpatrick could very well be the correct answer here, especially with the less ownership than Fleetwood. But I'll go Fleetwood in Tier 2. Tier 3, Ricky, Jordan Spieth, Shane Lowry, Wyndham Clark, and Max Homa. As much as I really like Max Homa, I think it's between Jordan Spieth and Shane Lowry. I'll go with Jordan Spieth. The consistent success in Open Championships, while this isn't an Open Championship, it's going to play a lot like an Open Championship. So I'll go Jordan Spieth. I think Shane Lowry's a good play. I think Max Homa's a good play, but I'll take Spieth in Tier 3. Tier 4, Minwoo Lee, Justin Rose, Sung Jae, Tom Kim, Sam Burns, Justin Thomas, and Adam Scott. Ugh. I guess it's a good thing I've been trying to find a little bit of uniqueness as much as I can, because I really am the most confident in Justin Rose in this tier. Sung Jae, I suppose, would be a good pivot, especially if you're wanting a whole lot of uniqueness. But I'll go Justin Rose in Tier 4. I don't have a lot of confidence in a lot of these other players, other than maybe Adam Scott, but I'm much more confident in Rose than I am in Scott. So give me Rose in Tier 4. Tier 5, we have Ludwig Aberg, Corey Connors, Alex Smalley, Aaron Rai, Rasmus Højgaard, Lucas Herbert, and Sahith Theegala. To me, this is a two-person tier, close to a one-man tier. Just give me Alex Smalley. Middling in terms of ownership compared to all these other players. It's only 1 year, but he showed that he can play in these conditions, as he finished top 20, I believe, last year. And we went through his stats. I mean, he's top 5 in irons, top 7 in good drives gained. You'll have to be better on par 3s, absolutely. But I'm going to believe in the irons for Alex Smalley, so give me him in Tier 5. And then lastly, Tier 6, I'll have to swivel out of the way here. Tier 6, we have Padraig Harrington, Juice Lighton, Victor Paris, Yannick Paul, Patrick Rogers, Garrick Higgo, and Eric Van Rooyen. As much as I mentioned Yannick Paul in Classic, for tiers, I kind of like Padraig Harrington. And I probably should have mentioned him in Classic lineups as well. I kind of like Padraig Harrington, especially for tiers, considering the limited pool you have. Yannick Paul could be interesting. Van Rooyen generally plays these style events pretty well. I don't know. Just give me Patty. Give me Patty. I got a feeling. So there's a look at tiers contests. Let's move to classic lineups, and we're going to start with what is seemingly the way our fellow contestants seem to be going in creating their lineups. I'm going to start with trying to use a Scotty Scheffler lineup, which means we're not going to be able to use a whole lot in the nines. The most popular 6K play, if our fellow contestants are coming down here, Romain Langasque is 5.5%, not a whole lot. Kevin Yu, 4%. Callum Tarrant at 5.3%. So not a lot in the 6Ks. Perhaps Langasque, but in this exercise, I guess we'll have to go to maybe Jordan L. Smith at 9%. So this isn't going to be the most chalky of the lineups that we can make, but I'm just trying to highlight a lineup that is using Scheffler. I think Terrell Hatton would be a little bit too expensive, so let's drop to Wyndham Clark. No, I don't know if they could fit Justin Rose. So Wyndham Clark, perhaps Aaron Rai. Yeah, we're already at the 7,200 area. Ryan Fox, and this is going to make them go into the 6Ks anyway. So maybe it is Justin Rose. Let's see, Adam Scott maybe, or Aaron Rai. Ryan Fox, 72 again. That's Jordan Smith. Alex Bjork would be 100 over. Yeah, see, not a lot of our fellow contestants, at least per Fantasy National, are dropping below Ryan Fox. So this will be $100 over. I'm just trying to show you perhaps a lineup that would be using Scheffler. Now, fellow contestants might be going to the sixes for, who did I say it was? There was somebody, Romain Langasque. Let's see how that works, because this is 12.5%. That's actually not too terribly popular. So if we go all the way to Langasque, yeah. I still think it's probably Justin Rose here. Ryan Fox. And then 78 and 77. Aaron Rai. Adam Scott maybe. Yeah, see, using Scheffler, this is the challenge that you have. And 72 is Jordan L. Smith. He is so very, very prohibitive in pricing that you're not going to be able to use too much in the nines, if any. Maybe only 1 or 2 8s. You're going to be living in this 7K range. Whereas it looks like the majority of our fellow contestants, much like a major championship, are building balanced lineups. Terrell Hatton, Tommy Fleetwood, Rhodes would be in this, but we'll try to use a few different names. We'll get a little bit more top heavy using Clark. No, probably not, because I do want to bottom this out at Ryan Fox. So Fox, Aaron Rai, that's at 78 and a 79. Smalley, Again, this would be Aaron Rye. Let's see. Maybe if they come off Fleetwood and go to Clark, then Fox up to Aaron Rye. Adam Scott. No, probably Corey. Yeah, Corey Connors and Adam Scott. So a 13.5% balanced look. And again, maneuver this however you want. Maybe they're going Ricky, Tommy instead of Terrell and Wyndham Clark. Maybe they go Hovland. Rose is probably in here somewhere as well. So there's a look at a couple of chalky lineups. One using Scheffler and then one going balanced. How we are going to maneuver around this chalk. The more that you go into the low sevens, the more unique it looks like you're going to be. I mentioned, a couple of 6K plays, but especially if you are in the 10Ks, the Sami Välimäki 6400. I really like his chances this week of producing value for you, which means we can go Scotty Scheffler. I doubt you can go double tens because of Scheffler's prohibitive price. Gosh dang it, I don't know why. I keep... but you can easily go into the nines. I've mentioned Fitzpatrick. I still don't know why Lowry is one of the lower owned in the 9Ks, or projected the lowest owned. Guy's a grinder, loves Open Championship style golf, and that's what this is. You can probably fit in 8 in here. I don't know if I would. I might just try to hover around the 7s, like an Alex Smalley, Brian Fox, even though he's popular. Lucas Herbert, if you want to believe in the terrible weather narrative. As difficult as it's gonna be, Keith Mitchell seems like he could surprise some people, even as poor as his irons have been. You still have 7,800. You could take an Aaron Rye, Gary Woodland. Yeah, let's throw Gary in this. So there's a 9% lineup. You're looking at probably a unique lineup thanks to Sami Välimäki, but you can use Scotty Scheffler. You got Shane Lowry, Alex Smalley, who's played well in this event. A little bit more playing onto the difficult narrative with Gary Woodland and Keith Mitchell. If you want to use Scheffler, I don't see a way you don't go into the 6Ks unless you're using a whole lot in the low 7s. We'll throw Padraig in this. You go Patty Harrington, Bezadenhout maybe at 72 could be interesting. Nick Taylor. I'm back on Nick Taylor this week. The more you're willing to go into these low 7s, the more unique you're going to be, and what allows you to take, perhaps a Scotty Xander. Let's try to get real crazy. Yeah, that's probably going to be too much. That's just highlighting how prohibitive Scotty's pricing is. So let's go Scotty. We used Shane Lowry. Let's go Scotty Spieth. Yeah, we're at 7,500 here. We could go Sungjae. No, maybe not. I lied. Not Sungjae. 75 per player. Oh, that's where I messed up. It's per player. Again, Thomas Detry maybe. Ryan Fox. This is 7,400. Not a lot at 74 that I like. Maybe Eric Cole. Nikolai Højgaard. Zadenhout, I'll throw in this. There's a 9%er again, leaving a couple hundred on the table with Scheffler. But the way that I've been going, and it's going to be difficult to do to try to find as much uniqueness It's just building balance. Because there isn't a lot in the 6Ks that I like because I don't focus or I don't pay attention to the DP World Tour. If you have strong feelings about any of these DP World Tour players, then use them. You're going to gain some uniqueness. But for me, I have been building balanced lineups. I can start with Fitzpatrick. Even though he's chalky, we'll go Fleetwood. We'll go Shane. We've used Lowry before. Let's use Max Homa. I do like Max Homa this week. Sungjae, we haven't thrown in the lineup yet. We'll go Alex Smalley. I know he's getting a little bit of love in the upper sevens, but I do like the way his game fits the Renaissance Club. We can bottom out at Ryan Fox or Eric Cole, and we're still left with 7,800, which is Aaron Rye. Look, we're using quite a bit of chalk here. We're still only at 11%. This might get duplicated in the big GBPs, but it's not going to get. It's not so popular that you can't rise on the leaderboards, especially with the Sungjae inclusion, and you can easily get much more unique than this if you're willing to come down into the lower sevens. Again, for these names like Christian Bezadenhout, Nick Taylor, Yannick Paul. There's one way to go about it. Let's see. I really want to try to throw in Xander in one of these, being he's the number one player in my rankings and the defending champion. So Xander, we'll have to jump into the low sevens for this, I'm sure. Let's go Xander. Let's go Xander, Shane Lowry, Max Homa. See how much that leaves us with. 7,200. Okay, yeah, we can do this. So, again, several names that I've mentioned in the lower sevens. Yannick Paul, Patrick Harrington, Nick Taylor. I might jump into the sixes for this, maybe. Well, I thought about it, and then I remembered what these names are, and I don't like them. So, let's use Nick Taylor, I suppose. No, Yannick Paul. We haven't used Yannick Paul yet. Yannick Paul, 7,300 per is, say, a Christian Bezadenhout, and 74 is Eric Cole. Kitayama, if you're there, I'm not particularly, but if we throw Eric Cole in this, then you're looking at a sub 9% lineup here with the defending champion, with Shane Lowry, with Max Homa. I like this lineup quite a bit. A reminder that I will be over in Gabe's Substack chat. If you are not a subscriber to his article called The Fringe, I highly suggest you do so. It's a very, very good read, especially at the start of the week for research purposes. But him and I will continue the DFS discussion over there in his Substack chat. Let me know of any wagers that you have, who your winner is, who you're fading, who you're pivoting to. Do you think I'm way off base with the players that I'm suggesting? Jump in chat and put it in the comments. But P, thanks for jumping in chat. Much appreciated. Every time you are able to, you jump in chat. And thanks to everyone else out there who tunes in, watches, listens, supports the channel by liking the video, commenting, subscribing. It's always appreciated. Love what I do. Looking at in-depth sports statistics and trying to win a little bit of money in the process. Last I saw, I was at 99 subscribers. Hopefully I will hit the 100 here fairly soon, which is still small by YouTube standards, but I'm still very grateful that you all choose to subscribe and support the content that I put out. I very much appreciate it. Quick reminder again, I will be over in Gabe's Substack chat right after the show, and my wagers, my betting cards will be out on Twitter after the show. For all of the wagers you've made this week for the Scottish Open, for all the DFS contests you've entered this week for the Scottish Open, for this weekend and every weekend, May all your bets be profitable.